shouldn't be spending money right now, especially with all my belly aching about not working enough, which is very real. But when I'm in the South and I'm in Kentucky right now, I need to get some barbecue. So I have a pulled pork sandwich, and this place sells an appetizer that is fried corn with powdered sugar on it. So of course that was something that I had to order, and I got some broccoli on the side. So I got one green thing, but yeah, it's just a thing. It's like, we have great barbecue in Chicago too, but I don't know, I'm in the South, you got to do it, you know? So here we are. Okay, you guys know I don't like to show myself eating, so I didn't show the food, but that barbecue was fire, okay? Sonny's barbecue. And because their logo says local pitmasters since '68, when I see something like that, a business has been established for a long time. These days it's like, you might think it's good, and then it's like it turns out to be some like crappy chain. No, this is really, really good. Pulled pork was awesome. I'm going to give you my little review from a person who once was really into food. The pulled pork is amazing, and one thing I really like I appreciate in a good sandwich is when they have it made in such a way that every bite you get, you're not like, the sandwich isn't falling apart as you're eating it, so they properly shred the meat so it's in like even pieces. The barbecue sauce is distributed very well through it. This was the Carolina barbecue sandwich, barbecue like pulled pork sandwich, so it has like barbecue sauce mixed into it. And then they have coleslaw on it, and I was debating whether to get that because coleslaw, when it's shredded, can be kind of messy, and it's like too big of pieces, and like you get a big old chunk of like cabbage in your mouth and it's too much. It was like perfectly chopped, so it was like every bite you get a little bit of like nicely finely chopped up, oh my god, words. Coleslaw with the pulled pork is perfect. Good bun. They also have, their sandwiches can also be on garlic bread, and I was like, that sounds like indigestion, so I'm not doing that. This is OJ because I'm about to make fresh OJ from the Jewels, because I'm about to make my morning drink in a minute here. But that, and then the little corn nuggets, so it's like little fried nuggets of corn, and they're so good. They're like sweet and savory and like the right amount of crunch, and they're perfectly fried, and I was like, these guys know what they're doing. This was really good. And the broccoli was perfectly seasoned with the exact right amount of salt and steamed exactly right. Like, I just get such a kick out of when you go to like a random restaurant like that and you don't know how it's going to be, and then everything is prepared exactly correctly. It's like, yes, it's simple, stick to your ribs kind of food. And it's satisfying, and it's prepared perfectly. I love that. Yeah, 5 stars, Sonny's Barbecue. You should go there if you're in Kentucky and you happen to be near one. Highly recommend. Prices are good too. It's funny because I'm looking at the menu and I'm like, oh, this isn't bad at all. And then I'm realizing it's because I'm used to Chicago prices, and I'm like, oh, things are actually, well, because wages are different. But for someone from Chicago, everything seems a lot cheaper. So anyway, that was great, super satisfying. I had a pretty short drive today. This run is over the holiday weekend, and technically, if I really ran hard, I could have completed the run in a day, or at least the second leg of it. But I wasn't trying to kill myself over it because it's not due until Tuesday morning. So I thought take a little more of the trip today. And then tomorrow, kind of starting early, I only have another probably 5 hours that I'm going to be driving until I get to my destination, and then delivering first thing Tuesday. So I'll pretty much have like most of my day open tomorrow. So I'm not thrilled about it, but at least I'm not sitting the entire weekend. So that's a plus. And I'm just really grateful when I get to eat some good food. It makes me feel more like at home. So that's pretty cool. Catch you later. All right, since I just mentioned it, I'm gonna show you guys and just talk a little bit about the morning drink. I've talked about it before, but it's something I do every day that is really, I think, is helpful. And you guys know I always kind of give a disclaimer when I talk about anything like food and nutrition related. I don't think of myself as being some kind of expert, but I found some little hacks that kind of work for me. And I used to take acid reducing medication every day for years and years. I took omeprazole, which is commercially Prilosec, if you're stuck in a cycle of taking that stuff, then you know it's technically, supposedly on the packaging, they tell you it's not meant to be taken long term, but then the way they sell it, where you buy one, get one half off a lot of the time, or you get coupons for it or something, it's clearly addictive. And what happens when you try to stop it is you end up with horrible rebound acid reflux. That's what used to happen to me. And I would have so much digestive upset when I try to stop it that I would just give up and keep using it. I finally was able to wean myself off of it. Over time, I've just kind of adapted my eating habits a little bit, and I know what sort of triggers reflux, and certain things, you know, are just obvious, like caffeine. I used to smoke cigarettes, and that totally used to make my heartburn worse. So if you're a smoker, that's another good reason to get rid of it. It's not good for digestion, like it's not good for literally anything. But anyway, I'm not trying to be preachy. I was just going to tell you about this real quick. So I always have turmeric on me. I'm not going to sit here and be like, turmeric is going to cure everything. I'm not one of those people, I promise you. Dang it, I dropped my spoon. Okay, here it is. So I usually put like this much turmeric, but I know it's a natural anti-inflammatory. So my whole thing is like, if I think it's going to help, I'm just going to try. Why not? But I'm not going to say like, this is the cure for all that ails you, because I don't buy that stuff either. This is the last of my black pepper, but I have another thing of it. I like to use it from a grinder because I like it really fine in there. And then I use some cinnamon, a little bit of that in there, probably like half a teaspoon, or yeah, about half a teaspoon, I would say. And then I just do a little bit of cayenne, and it's just like a finely ground cayenne powder. And I just do like 2 little taps of the bottle, basically. So that's probably like 1/8 of a teaspoon, not even, less than that. It's just like a sprinkle on there, because I have this in the morning and I'm not trying to like have something that's super intense. It is a little intense and it took some getting used to, but what's funny is now that I do this every day, when I don't have it, I really like, I want it. I feel better when I have it. It's just gotten to be a routine. And then I put a little bit of this apple cider vinegar, probably about 2 tablespoons, I would say. I've gotten to a point where I've never been big on measuring things. About this much. And then I was forever putting fiber in it. I use just Metamucil, but I stopped doing it the night before, because when you do that, it gets this disgusting gelatinous texture. So I'll either put it in there right before I drink it and just stir it in so it can't like do the gelatinous thing. And then fresh OJ, and I just do probably like 6 ounces. So it ends up looking like this. I stir that up really well and I add some water to it. For a while I had this spirulina powder. It's like blue-green algae, which is supposed to have amazing health benefits, but it's also very earthy, let's say. That's I'm putting it nicely. It's unpleasant to me, and it had this weird, I didn't even know how to describe it. Just a very strong smell and taste, and I ran out and I haven't bought more because it's not really something that's very palatable first thing in the morning. But then I just add water up till, so it's about that much, and I just give it a good stir, and I throw it in the fridge because it's better cold. And then first thing in the morning, I take my shower and then I drink this while I do my skincare routine. I swear by it. I don't know, I feel like I just have less reflux since I've been doing this. Another thing that'll cause reflux I've noticed is anytime I take a nap during the day, maybe because it's closer to the time when I drink coffee, because I do take naps, which I never would have in the past really, but it's only because trucking. Sometimes I'll pull off at a rest area and I'll set a timer for like 20 to 25 minutes. That's like the max. I don't like to take more than that because then I'll feel groggy. If I have eaten too close to that time, then I'll wake up and I'll have a little bit of heartburn. But otherwise, for the most part, I don't really get heartburn that much. And if I do, it's super mild. And I pretty much never take any kind of heartburn medication. The only thing, I don't use antacid. The only thing I ever will use if I really have heartburn, which is super rare for me, but if it's like significant enough for like indigestion, I will use a little bit of baking soda and water, just a little bit, you know. But anyway, morning drink for those who are interested. Hello, my friends. I want to tell you something funny about what happened today. I just did a truck wash, even though it's a rainy day, because my truck actually needed it. There was areas that were all like muddy and stuff from where grime got kicked up on the road, and So I just did a nice little truck wash, and I'm sitting here and the rain is making me want to take a nap. But I had a delivery today, so I drove through the Chicago area and I saw a really nasty rollover crash. The traffic was backed way up on northbound 294. The reason it turned out that it was backed up is because on the southbound lane there was an overturned Schneider tanker truck in the left lane, blocking like the left 2 lanes. And it was so gnarly looking, and it was so, when you see something like that, it's very startling, especially when it's a tanker truck, and especially because actually as I was driving past it, there was an emergency worker who was standing inside what was left of the cab because the cab was on its side. And you just think, I really hope that driver made it out of there. And you think, okay, well, the driver most likely was speeding in order for that to happen. But then when you're in those types of traffic areas, you also know that there's a possibility that even if that driver was driving as safely as they could, stuff can happen in such short order. People jump out in front of you all the time that it could have been a situation where that driver was just trying to manage a situation and didn't have enough control. And it was raining too. So raining, tanker. I had the impression it was empty because just the way I didn't see like anything on the road around the truck, any liquid or anything. So anyway, but that's not the thing I was going to tell you that was funny. That wasn't funny at all. That was upsetting. No, what was funny is, so I had this drop off, and it was in this area that was sort of a hybrid of industrial and residential, and that's never great because a lot of times those are areas where the streets were originally built. Maybe they were originally built for some business, but they didn't exactly have a plan in mind for what businesses were going to go there, and maybe they didn't plan on businesses that would require trucks to deliver and receive things or whatever. So what's funny about this, so the picture I have that I'll show is of the entrance there, and you can see it's this very small lot that is basically big enough to get the truck into. But if I had had a regular tractor trailer, like a van trailer, I could have gotten in there. There were a couple of issues happening, and one of the issues is that I'm driving a split axle with the back of the back 2 axles is all the way in the back of the trailer. So it's almost like you're trying to back a trailer in a really tight spot with your tandems all the way back if you had a van trailer. And what I've said before, only it's worse, and I'll tell you why in a second. And I'm obviously, those of you who drive split axles, you already know, so you can just fast forward or something. When I've been in situations that were this tight before and I had a van, there were times I would just move the tandems all the way forward real quick, because that would give you a shorter base of, like a shorter, what's the words I'm looking for? What are the words? So it's gonna mean that you don't need as much room, although you gotta watch the swing, the back of the trailer. So I'm trying to back into this super tight lot off this very small street that's just designed for cars to go through, not really for trucks, and that's lined with all these small trees. So it's like you're trying not to mess up the trees, you're trying not to mess up your trailer on the trees. I had a Conestoga, so it's a tarp material that's more vulnerable to trees, arguably. As I'm trying to attempt this back, and then realizing that it really isn't enough room to do it without going over a grassy median, which it looked like other people had done probably before. So here's what I was about to say about having a split axle in this situation, again, for people who don't know. So if you have a fully loaded spread axle or split axle and you're trying to back it, and you're doing like a 45 or a 90 or any type of back really, except a straight back, the weight on the front of the rear axles is going to cause, you can look at that whole like set of wheels and watch them dragging sideways across the pavement, because your pivot point then is the back of the trailer. It's like that rear axle, and those other ones are just along for the ride. So when you add weight to that, you're at high risk of blowing out a tire because it's just dragging it on the ground. So the only real thing you can do ideally is to swing wide, like make a wider back, but when you don't have the room, you can't. So you're forcing yourself to do this tight little back that's really dragging those wheels sideways, and all that weight is pressing down on it, and you have to go real slow. Well, apparently this is a newer newer Freightliner tends to have more of an issue with this, according to my fleet manager, from what he's heard, because I ran this by him. He also is a former flatbed driver. So as I'm trying to back this is the issue that happens with Freightliners, but especially these newer ones apparently are more sensitive to it. If you're backing and you're using the brakes a lot, you're gonna get an overheated clutch warning. And I've had that happen in the past when there was a place I had to deliver to that I had to back up a really tall hill, and I was like heavily loaded, and that was making that go off like constantly, which is weird because I wasn't really using the brake that much, I don't think. I don't know. In any case, this time that overheating clutch warning started happening almost immediately as I was backing in my first attempt. And I was smelling a burning smell, and I was like, oh shit. So the only thing you can do when that happens is stop, because it could cause a fire, so you have to stop. The thing that's frustrating about this is when it happens, you know that whoever is there, like the customer or random people that are around, they don't know what's going on, so they think that you just don't know how to back your truck, and you're just stopping and getting out because you like need help or something. But it's like, no, I physically can't move this truck right now because it's in danger of messing up the truck, so I'm gonna stop. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to not mess up my beautiful truck. So I get out and I go to tell the customer, it's like this little tiny place, and I go to tell the guys there, like, hey, just FYI, I'm blocking this entire street because I'm in the middle of doing this modified 45, and I tell them I can't move the truck out of the road right now. I have to stop and sit because my clutch is overheating. And they're like, oh, okay, but I don't think they really exactly know what I'm saying, but they're like, that's fine. But right before I attempted this back, this Hotshot dude, and if you don't know what a Hotshot is, I'll explain that in a minute. I'll show a couple pictures. Okay, I'm just listening to this video back. I'm in a different spot because I have all this stuff in my driver's seat where I normally record these, but I just realized I didn't explain what I said I was going to explain. A Hotshot driver, Hotshots are like when you see a pickup truck that has a trailer attached to it, and I think some of those guys are DOT, like they have DOT authority, but I think some of them don't. I'm not sure exactly how that works. It probably depends on like number of axles or something. I don't know. But I think because some of them maybe aren't DOT compliant in the same way that big trucks are, that's where there's sort of like this competitive attitude, or there's a lot of hotshot drivers who are really aggressive and don't drive well, and that might upset people. I don't know. I don't have that much knowledge of it, but that's what a hotshot is. I forgot to mention that before. I forgot to add that in, so here you go. He just, he doesn't know, I have my lights on and stuff, so he doesn't know what I'm about to do, but he just races around me and backs into this tiny lot real quick to get loaded. And it's very clear to anyone with half a brain who would come up upon this situation that I'm in a truck that is huge for this amount of space, and that I'm maybe about to back into that space, or maybe I'm about to do something with this business. There are many people out on the road who are cool and polite and who get it, and who would never do a dick move like that, like just race around a big truck and try to just like force their way in. They would probably stop. They might pull because I was sitting like with the open lot next to me in front of me, getting ready to start my back. And after I had just talked to the guys and gotten back in my truck, they might pull around in front of me and stop, get out and talk to me and be like, hey, are you about to back in here? Because I was about to back in here to get loaded. But no, this guy was an asshole, straight up. Like, that was immediately revealed what kind of person I was dealing with by the way that he zoomed around me and backed in there in front of me. So then I have my truck backed and like blocking the whole ass road. I gotta stop the truck. I get out, I go tell these guys, look, my clutch is overheating and the only thing I can do is sit here and wait for it for a minute. And then I asked them, I was like, do you usually have people deliver here in trucks this, like with a sleeper? And they're like, oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, okay. As I'm like going to talk to them, the hotshot guy gives me this like, oh, what's the matter? You can't back that truck? Aren't you a professional? And he does it like he's trying to be funny. But I am picking up exactly what this motherfucker is laying down. And it's like, dear men who act like this, we all see exactly, like we see right through this little shtick, and we are not impressed and we are not intimidated. And what this guy is giving is very small little man energy. And what I'm saying right there is not anything referring to a person's anatomy. It's referring to their spirit, because this guy is just a little man. I'm not talking about his stature or anything else about him physically. I'm saying he's a little man. He's a little man. And he's a man who probably has insecurity about the fact that he's driving a Hotshot and I'm in a big truck, and so he automatically has some kind of feelings about that. Maybe he's had truckers be some way to him that was insulting, or it's that I'm a woman, and it's like a double whammy. And not only am I in a big truck, but I'm a woman, so I very much got that vibe from him, and it's not that hard to mistake that or to miss that, you know. I was just like, I was like, no, I just kind of didn't react to him. I was like, no, that's not my issue. My clutch is overheating. So I just got back in the truck and I started to attempt it again, and it kept happening. So I went back out and I told the guys, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just have to sit here and wait for this thing to cool. And I said, is there any way that I can, instead of doing it this way, can I just, you know, straighten out and back next to your lot and you can just unload me that way? Because that's the beauty of a Conestoga or a curtain side, is they can just open the curtain, they can pull right up with the forklift to the side of the bed and just pull the stuff off. Like, that would have been the easiest solution. I don't know why that wasn't the automatic answer to the whole thing. So no, back this gigantic truck, roll over these grassy medians. There's random pedestrians walking their dogs on the sidewalk across the street right where your truck is going to go. Like, let's not do all of that. And we don't need to block traffic. We can only block one side and we'll be good. That would have been the logical way to handle it. But it was like, as I was walking up to this guy to have that conversation, like, can I just do this from the edge of your lot and pull up to it? This guy's like talking to the other guy, and I'm waiting, and he's like, just go talk to her first. And like, his whole attitude was so shitty. And so anyway, the long story short is, I usually don't tell stories about like negative stuff that happens because it's pretty rare. It's like, I usually will share it just because I think it's kind of funny. I think it's sort of entertaining. We all like to hear, like, give us the tea, you know, kind of thing. But most of the people I encounter out here are cool and like supportive, and like a lot of guys love seeing a badass female truck driver, especially doing flatbed stuff. And they're very understanding. If you're having a hard time with something, they're down to help you. They're not like crappy about it. This guy was giving off some icky energy, and I was just not even trying to have it. So I just kind of ignored him, and I was kind of laughing at him on the inside of like, you're one of the exceptions, dude. Like, you're not representative of most of the guys out here. Most of the guys, or a lot of the guys out here, are very cool and warm and welcoming of people like me in the industry. So anyway, that was just a funny, stupid thing that happened today. And oh yeah, and I just want to say this too. In talking about like hotshot drivers, I have no negative vibes toward them. Like, I respect the hustle. I know someone who follows me, whose channel I follow, who does deliveries in a Sprinter van. Like, there are people who do box truck deliveries. I'm not going to shit on people for how they choose to make their living. It's all a hustle. It's all hard for all of us out here, especially just doing any type of driving job, you know. So when I see these hot shots and truck stops, and I think, I'm not trying to start a song, and you think, these poor guys are sleeping in that. I have this nice comfortable cab to sleep in. Yeah, my job is a lot more cumbersome in certain ways and stuff like that, and there are a lot of hotshot drivers that drive like shit, but there are a lot of big truck drivers who drive like shit, and all kinds of drivers who drive like shit. So definitely respect the hustle. Got nothing negative to say about somebody because of how they choose to make their living. None whatsoever. So anyway, that's my little story for the day. Feels like a day to have some tea. I might just do that. It's good tea weather. I've got a stock of tea still from my good friend Mark. Thank you. And yeah, I'll catch up with you guys later.